With the outbreak of the Civil War on April 12, 1861, the nation was divided, and the newly created Confederate States of America called for aid from all of its citizens. Rose O'Neal Greenhow and Isabella Bell Boyd answered that call. Greenhow was a prominent citizen in the capital and had many friends who were some of the powerful people of that day. She used these connections to supply information to the Confederacy through a ring of informers. Pursued ruthlessly by the Yankee spy Allan Pinkerton, she would eventually die for the cause in which she believed in. Belle Boyd was a brazen and bold spy known to northern newspapers as La Belle Rebelle, or the Siren of the Shenandoah, and Amazon of Secessia. Arrested 6 times, thrown in prison 3 times, and banished twice during her time as a Confederate spy, Belle risked her life. Both of these women risked everything they had, putting themselves in danger of capture and death for the Confederacy. They were spies of the South. On July 2nd, 1861, Union troops occupied Martinsburg, Virginia after a small skirmish with Confederate troops. On the 4th of July, a group of drunk soldiers hold of a rebel girl who decorated her room with Confederate flags. Hearing this, they determined to hang the Federal flag above the Boyd home. Belle's mother stepped forward to stop these soldiers from invading her home.
Men, every member of this household shall die before you take our house.
You better get out of your way, you rebel.
Leave or I'm gonna shoot you.
No, you best get out of the way.
Belle is found to be justified in her shooting of the soldier due to his rude action, and so she avoids punishment. A guard is placed around the Boyd home to protect them from future attack. Belle uses her proximity to Union soldiers and generals to spy for the Confederacy, sending all the information she acquires to General Jeb Stuart. Rose Greenhow attends a dinner at the home of a prominent Washington politician in early July 1861. About to walk into a room, Rose hears an interesting conversation.
We've decided to move on Manassas by mid-July and smash the Confederates there.
Oh good, that should be the end to this rebellion with one battle.
I have to get this information to General Beauregard. The Yankees cannot be allowed to surprise the army.
The chain bridge divided Washington, D.C. and Virginia, and it was the only way for Rose to get information out to the Confederate Army. Heavily guarded by Yankee troops at all times, it seemed impossible for Rose to get the information out of the city. However, a young, wise woman by the name of Betty Duval volunteered to smuggle the information out of the city.
Betty, this note could decide the future of our young nation. You have to make sure General Beauregard himself gets this information.
I will make sure I put it into the general's hands.
I have the note here and I want you to hide it in your hair. Godspeed, Betty, Godspeed.
Hello there, where do you think you're going? Don't you know it's dangerous to go into rebel territory alone?
Don't worry, I'm just going to see my grandmother in Virginia.
Well, alright then. Miss, you have something in your hair.
There's nothing in my hair.
The delivery of the Yankee plans allowed the Confederate Army to prepare for the Yankee attack, and the Battle of Manassas was a great Confederate victory. Rose continued to leak information from her home, and soon an information leak was traced back to her household, and a Yankee spy named Allan Pinkerton was sent to monitor her home. Eventually, guards were placed around her home, but she still continued to leak information to the Confederacy. Eventually, she and her young daughter were confined to the old Capitol prison, where she became a martyr to the Confederates. Eventually, she was released without ever going to trial because the Yankees thought that as a woman, she could do little harm and wanted to avoid giving Confederates any kind of propaganda. She was banished south after this. In 1862, Belle moves in with her aunt in Front Royal, Virginia. The house is used as a Yankee command, and one night while Yankee generals are discussing battle plans, Belle finds that there is a hole in the ceiling above the room that they are talking.
Do I hear something?
We will march on Jackson and crush him.
Bell traveled 15 miles to inform the general of the Yankees' attack, preventing the ambush of General Jackson. Several weeks later, on May 23rd, Bell learned of Jackson's advance on Front Royal, knowing that the outnumbered Union troops were going to burn down bridges to try to slow down Jackson and allow time for reinforcements to arrive. So let me tell you what Bell did. Bell ran across enemy lines as Yankee soldiers fired at her to deliver the information to Jackson, which allowed him to defeat the Yankees. Soon after, Bell was arrested and confined to the old Capitol prison, where she sang Dixie ceaselessly and waved Confederate flags out her window. After Rose and Bell's imprisonment in Old Capitol Prison, both were released and banished south. Rose went on to become an unofficial Confederate ambassador in Britain and France. She became very popular among the courts of Napoleon III and Queen Victoria. She even wrote a best-selling account of her time as a spy. She met her end when she tried to sneak back into the Confederacy of the blockade runner Condor. They arrived during the storm off the coast of North Carolina. Rose, determined to reach land, went out into the sea in a rowboat, which capsized some time later. Her body was found on the beach with $2,000 in gold, which she brought for the Confederacy. She was buried with full military honors in Wilmington, North Carolina. Bell was arrested 6 times, thrown in prison 3 times, and banished twice during her time as a Confederate spy. She eventually went to Europe and married a Union officer who smuggled her out of the CSA to Europe, where she campaigned for the CSA. She eventually returned to the U.S. after the war and made a successful stage career portraying her time as a spy. She died in 1900 in Wisconsin.